Hi, everybody. This is Adam Illenboss from Nightlight Astrology. It's Saturday, May 18th today, and I'm sitting down to talk about a few transits. First of all, it's the full moon in Scorpio, so that's a big deal. Full moon in Scorpio is pretty powerful, especially given that the moon is considered to be in its fall in this sign, and also considering the natural relationship with Mars right now in the sky, which is in its fall in Cancer. So they're in a mutual reception by debility, both in their falls, but sort of helping one another. And then we also have Venus in early degrees of Taurus making a conjunction with Uranus today. So that's happening as the full moon is coming through. So it's a pretty intense day. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that you could think about for this day. First of all, let me just do the obligatory thing and show you the transit on the screen, because it gives you something fun to look at. Okay, so you can see hopefully you can see it on the screen now. So I've just got the traditional 7 up for now, but let me plug in Uranus. All right, so you can see that Venus is in a close conjunction with Uranus as I'm actually giving this talk within 4 minutes of exact. That's coming through today. The effects of that will be felt all weekend and into early next week. So that's coming through at the same time that we can see the Scorpio full moon coming through. And that's right there, opposition to the sun. You can always tell full moon because it's always opposite the sun. So the full moon is in Scorpio, and that's the place of the moon's fall. And its ruler or host, Mars, is also in its fall in Cancer, but Cancer is the domicile of the moon. So they have mutual reception by fall. What does that mean? Well, I talked about this today, in my daily write-up. I do written horoscopes as well. By the way, people always ask me, well, they always say, what would you call the kinds of content that you create? And I say, I call them horoscopes, because the word horoscopos in the Greek means of the hour. So the word horoscope is literally referring to whatever degree is currently rising. Whatever degree is a portion of fate. In the Greek language, the word moira is a portion of fate. Each degree of the zodiac is like a portion of fate that's rising in the east. So I use the word horoscope. I'm trying to kind of liberally recraft what we think of when we think of horoscopes. I think of anything that's relevant, current, inspired reflection on astrological transits or astrology itself to be of the moment, of the hour. So I consider a lot of different things to be horoscopes. The actual sun sign columns, rising sign columns that you read every month or every week or every year, or whatever. Excuse me. Those are like you could call them sun or rising sign horoscopes, but the kinds of forecasting work that you see done everywhere is also a kind of horoscope, because it means of the hour or of the moment. So that's really another way of thinking about this definition of horoscope. So when you take that into account, today, the moment, what's happening in today's, like, what is the moment, or what is of the hour right now? It's really a whole lot of Mars. You got Mars ruling the full moon, and it's a lot of moon, because the moon, or Mars, is in the moon sign. So it's really a kind of moon Mars day. You have to be careful of tempestuous emotional currents. Moon Mars is like a cutting of the umbilical cord. Potential for severing, conflict, or challenges in the home environment, in places that are more kind of have more nuclear emotional bonds. And for there to be some degree of destructiveness or darkness or tumultuousness in those places is, that's pretty high given the debility of both the moon and Mars right now. But, there is a complex and potentially beautiful or uplifting side to this transit as well. For example, I wrote this today. I said the combination of the moon in Scorpio and Mars in Cancer can be seen in many of the complex antagonist roles played by the famous actor Alan Rickman. He was born with the combination of moon in Scorpio and Mars in Cancer. You know Alan Rickman as Snape from Harry Potter. Rolling Stone said of Rickman that He was sublime at giving us a glimpse at last into the secret, nurturing heart that Snape masks with a sneer. Now, if you've seen the Harry Potter series, you know what I'm talking about. But if you don't, Alan Rickman also, look him up. He's been in a lot of different films. I mean, when I was a kid, I think the first thing I ever saw him in was he was the Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood with Kevin Costner. He played a villain, but he played a lot of villain roles. But he had a way of making villains complicated and sometimes sympathetic. And that's the Moon-Mars dynamic. So there is a little bit of darkness or heaviness around this Moon-Mars situation, but the darkness has the ability to potentially surprise us or bring out something that's more constructive. Sometimes in life we need to team up with people or situations that are a little dark or heavy because it gets us through something. For example, sometimes I was talking with a couple of different clients this week as soon as the Mars moved into Cancer. Sometimes even though you really don't want to like a family member, there are times, not all the time, but there are some times where even the most despicable family member becomes an ally. There is a time, in elementary school or middle school where the person that is typically your enemy temporarily or even for, sort of surprisingly may become very helpful. So sometimes we have to be surprised by what is dark, what is complicated for us emotionally. And that can be part of this full moon. This full moon has the power also to be just kind of really, dropping kind of a bomb into family dynamics. That's possible. But also, again, like we can be surprised. I wrote this, I said, though it may look a little heavy or dark, this full moon has the potential to surprise us with tenderness, with heroic emotional dynamism, or with a drop dose of the poison that cures. It's kind of Moon Mars in Scorpio Cancer. Sometimes someone says something that's cutting, but it's really emotionally honest. And even though it hurts, it changes us for the better. It's complex. It's a little traumatizing, but it's transformative. That's a kind of moon in Cancer, moon in Scorpio, Mars in Cancer dynamic as well. Now, at the same time, that this kind of complicated, heavy, emotional Moon-Mars dynamic is going on, which has the potential to be constructive because they're in a trine with one another and they're in mutual reception. At the same time, Venus is conjoining Uranus. And this signals, kind of compartmentalizing it for a second, signals a moment of dramatic change, revolution, some pretty unexpected or surprising events, sometimes reversals, inventiveness, defiance, independence, shocking creativity, all pertaining to Venus-related matters, which would be love, relationships, beauty, art, aesthetics, style, friendships, or when the technological becomes beautiful, or when the defiant or individualistic also becomes inspiring for others. When the defiant or individualistic has a way of creating bonds with other people. Like if I take a stand for something, it could actually create a more harmony, or it could create meaningful relationships or connections with people. Sometimes I take a stand as an individual artistically, but I create a fad or a trend. These are Venus-Uranus dynamics that are at work right now. So I wouldn't be surprised for there to be sudden changes or even difficult emotional exchanges in friendships, at work, or in romantic partnerships. And for these also to be sort of surprisingly liberating, revealing, or relieving. In other words, there's a combination of sort of this kind of inventive, surprising, unpredictable energy with Venus that's matching with the complicated but maybe constructive qualities of Mars and the Moon right now. So, for example, just in my own life, I'm redoing one of the bedrooms in our house. Like everything in my house is completely chaotic in the upstairs right now, outside of this room, because we're repainting a room, and I'm redecorating the whole room, right? So, and that's happening in the midst of, just for example, this morning, both of my girls are having just woke up on the wrong side of the bed kind of days. They're just in foul moods. So, and my wife is like, managing that while I'm trying to get a little bit of work done here before she has to go off to work. So it has that feeling of just like really like hectic, intense emotional energy, but also this kind of creative revolution that's happening up here on the top floor of my house. That matches, do you know what I mean? So, and where will it be for you? Look at your house look at the house where Taurus is, your whole sign house of Taurus. Look at the whole sign house of Cancer. Do some creative combining of the topics of the houses and the topics of the planets that we're talking about. And I wrote this is just for fun, but you could make strong declarative fashion statements, aesthetic or artistic statements, but there might be some emotional depth and conflictedness around it as well. You could also imagine making some kind of artistic or aesthetic change to your environment really suddenly. I wrote this: after an argument with your spouse or mother or sibling, fine. 10 minutes later, your head's shaved, you're smoking a clove cigarette, you've got military combat boots on, and you're painting your bedroom wall hot pink. Like that's the kind of day that it could be, just because there's such a sort of erratic, kind of fun, creative energy with Venus, but then there's kind of like heavy, more emotionally loaded situation with the moon and Mars. I said this at the end of today. I said, if we treat every wave of astrological energy that comes in, if we don't look at it as something that's trying to block us or thwart us or what can I get from it, but instead we look at it like it's a friend, like it's a lover, like it's a mother, like it's a family member, like it's an angel. If we have a creative way of personifying and personalizing the energies that we're experiencing, they have the power to really change us personally. And when we imagine the different kinds of energies coming in as guests that are entering in our lives, and the top priority is how to host angelic presences, how to see them from the eyes of the soul. Things really change when we put ourselves in that mood, and we have the potential to create intimacy with unlikely scenarios. And so that's what I'm suggesting everyone do, because like the Rolling Stone magazine said, there's something sublime and secretly potentially very nurturing and beautiful that sometimes lurks within what otherwise might appear as something disruptive or something dark or heavy or whatever. And I said that I think the train just flew by my house and like made a really loud interrupting noise. So there's my angel. So anyway, the prayer that I had for today was, shock us into a deeper friendship with the world. Give us a glimpse of the heart and the beauty that we sometimes mask with a sneer. So that's what I've got for you guys today. I hope you have a really good one. Have a nice rest of your weekend as well. Take care. Bye.